And welcome back. Thank you so much for still being with us on the program. And of course, our guest today is none other than Amanda Basi. And Basi is the Program Director, Global African Investment Summit. Thank you so much for still being here and not deciding to walk out during the break.
Don't worry, I'm still here.
Right, so before we went for the break, we talked a bit about your life, your background, and of course, events management and organizing. Mm-hmm. But there's something very key that you mentioned before we get into the summit itself, and that was the issue of the brand. You know, and most of us actually fail in that end, creating brands around ourselves, creating brands around the things we do. And you said you work in an institution that already has several brands, and so trusting, or you know that you can start from somewhere when you go to pitch an idea or when you approach someone for partnerships. How do you do this? I mean, what are the kind of advice that you could share with people who are struggling with this issue?
Yeah, I mean, brands mean different things to different people. So, you know, when you think of brand, Golden Arches, for example, without mentioning any names, you automatically associate. So there's the design element, but there's also a direct association that you want your market to associate with your brand, so to speak. I wish there was an easy answer, but from my experience and what I see, just investing in your brand and protecting your brand should be really one of the core things that you always work towards as an individual or company, or if you have a company, your employees. So what does that mean? It means that you deliver, when people think of your brand, they think automatically, you've got a certain type of, price, quality, and you're consistent. So if anything, you want to improve upon your brand and the perception versus you're kind of a bit all over the place. Now, that takes time. So you have to be consistent over a period of time. So nobody can build a brand just ta-da, right? Maybe with social media these days it can be a little bit quicker. Yeah. But even the Paris Hiltons of this world, I'm sure there's a lot of effort to go behind their brand. Yeah. And that brings me probably to a second part, which is a personal brand that people have. And it's no different from a company brand in my view. It's again kind of sticking to what you're about and being consistent. And so when people think, Eugene, this is his brand, top quality host, can always expect these things from him, professional, always on time, etc. That would be your brand. So I would say it's consistency and also communicating that outwardly, but not necessarily just outwardly. It's that consistency that's the most important, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And when you talk of social media and today's world of social media, which most of us have sort of ignored, when it comes to its place in passing out information about the brands or the activities that we do. Yeah. How seriously do you take social media yourselves?
Yeah, social media is important. You can't not have it in this day and age. And even some of the most conservative industries. So I don't know, publishing. Well, publishing's a bit of a newspaper. Publishing's very conservative. Energy tends to be a bit conservative. Banking. But social media is so important, and if you don't at least listen to what your constituents are saying on Twitter, for example, or LinkedIn if it's a bit more business professional, you're really missing out. And it's a massive opportunity. It's a massive opportunity that everybody should take advantage of. Yeah. But it's not the only thing. Yeah. So you can't. There's no let's say silver bullet or silver bullet in terms of you do social media and you'll make it big like that person. Yeah. It's a part of a much larger marketing mix, so to speak, but a very important part in this day and age. It can be very effective.
Super. The summit itself, coming into Kigali, of course being hosted here in Rwanda, and many people asking several questions. We just had the African Union summit here in Rwanda. We had other different bigger events right in the country, and they're sort of asking what different kind of conversations are going to be happening here. How different is it? How important is it? Could you just share with us that?
Yeah, the thing with the Global African Investment Summit is really a unique platform, and I know a lot of people say this is the unique or the only meeting place, but this is genuinely a very unique platform in that it was the only platform that's been developed specifically to bring FDI, foreign direct investment, into Africa. That's how it started 3 years ago in 2014 in London. This is the third edition, so 2 years ago. But it's also back to what we discussed about in part one of this interview. It's really focusing on what's important for our constituents. And for these events, it's a combination of public sector and private sector coming together for the continent and wanting to deals, wanting to do business. And really kind of that is what makes us unique. So there's lots of events out there, some very good ones, but I think they have their place, so to speak. So there's lots of high-level political discussion or putting some focus on economic or social issues. But this event not only just talks about kind of those high-level challenges, but it is focused on transaction and it's focused on connecting people and connecting people with a tangible outcome.
Right. So what sort of transactions are we going to be talking or looking at during this event?
I mean, I can talk to our past two events, which took place in London. So there have been, for example, projects presented by government and private sector alike over a wide array of sectors, but really kind of the core sectors are power, agribusiness is big, infrastructure. When I mean infrastructure, it can be anything from the massive kind of projects such as road or rail or ports, down to property or urban development. So these are some of the key sectors that are presented as projects. There are international investors. Some are looking at their economic returns. Well, all of them are, but there are some investors that social impact is also very important, especially with our family offices within our network or ultra high net worth individuals. So it's kind of looking at those and having project presentations and small kind of gatherings where people can really get under the skin of some topics, so to speak. So it's both looking at the high-level speakers and big keynotes, but always focused on the challenges and opportunities in their business and doing in Africa or investing in Africa, as well as specific project presentations that make this event really unique.
Right.
Yeah.
In most cases, we've seen finger pointing when it comes to investment and putting up projects where government has sort of pointed fingers at private sector and saying we are not seeing the private sector coming in to play a role in dealing or working with us in these projects. And on the other hand, the private sector would point fingers and say you are not creating the conducive environment. How is this forum or this summit going to help deal with such kind of issues?
Well, I think it's just the fact that this has both players in there, and that's pretty much what the ethos of this summit is. It's public sector, the role of the public sector, the role of the private sector, and what's the role for both and how do they work together across a variety of sectors. And then in that is like, how does the finance world or the investment world underpin this. So this particular summit that's taking place on the 5th and 6th of September is looking at the tripartite region, or the aspiration to have the tripartite regional integration to form a common market between the EAC, SADC and COMESA countries. And part of that is looking at the enabling environment. So what can the public sector and the private sector do to create this regional market, as well as the infrastructure. So again, the public and private sector's role in terms of creating this infrastructure, whether it's the hard infrastructure, the roads and the rail, or the soft infrastructure, having harmonization of cross-border visa kind of requirements, etc.
And so when we look at Africa, or trade within Africa, intra-African trade, we've had a lot of issues being talked about. Some saying we are not actually trading amongst ourselves as we are supposed to. Others talking of impediments to trade. But when we talk of this summit, if we could anticipate also looking back at the past summits that we've had, how do we envisage a more shaking up of this trade within Africa after this particular summit?
I think that's a good question, and this is why I'm going to do the plug for the summit and saying, look, all these issues will be unpacked and definitely addressed at the summit, and it is open to private sector individuals as well as public sector individuals. So I'm going to say we're going to talk about all these things, but you need to be at the summit to do it. So and the registration's still open for that. But that is really the crux of what we're going to be talking about.
And so at the end of the day, when all is said and done and everybody's packing their bags and going back, what do you envisage?
What we've managed to accomplish in our past editions, to be honest, I envisaged our delegates coming away with new contacts. I envisage our presenters or project owners to come away with investors. I'm sure there'll be some MOUs or letters of intent signed, as has been the trend in our past summits. So, I mean, I think this summit has had enormous interest. We've had over 1,000 people register, which we weren't quite expecting. So it's had enormous interest from very high level people, from the public sector also. Given our partners RDB and COMESA. So I think people will come away with really good business contacts and tangible things for their projects, and investors also with new exciting opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of leaders are we looking out to be seeing at this summit?
Well, we're being kindly hosted under the high patronage of His Excellency Paul Kagame, and he has invited the chairpersons of actually the REC, so the Regional Economic Communities, SADC, EAC, and also COMESA, as well as their deputy chairpersons and rapporteurs. So it would be looking at the heads of state that represent these bodies, because these three bodies are kind of key to forming this tripartite area.
So it's going to be a big event, of course.
Yes.
Right. If we could just go back before we wrap up right now, if we go back to your responsibility, I mean, what exactly is your work, and how is your day usually shaped?
Yeah.
To be able to put together such events that attract this kind of people.
Yeah. I think it's variety, and again, it's one thing that I really love about this industry. It's a variety of what you do. So now I'm talking with you. After I will be going to the lovely brand new Kigali Convention Centre to see with our AV team and prepare for that. Just before I got here, I was talking with some speakers and preparing them in terms of what they should be contributing, what they should focus on for their panel discussions. So it is a lot of variety. So no single event's the same, but no single day is the same. The day is the same either. But I think it's a team effort. Not one person can do this job. It's a team effort in terms of going out to the market, getting the right people engaged, organizing operationally and marketing also.
Right. Do you have any fear?
Do you have any fear?
Fears? Yes. What is your fear?
Yeah, you'd be silly not to have any fear.
What are your fears? What are your fears?
Oh, everybody. I mean, it's just, before an event starts, I probably start sleeping about 4 hours a day, about 4 weeks before the event, just because you think of all these things that can go wrong. You'll be silly not to have those fears, because that means you don't really care about your job.
So your fear in this case is failure. You fear to fail.
Well, things that you anticipate that you haven't anticipated, for example. And I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and it's always the same after every event. It happens fine, but you have a little bit of a funny stomach, I think, makes you that you still care about your job and what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
So apart from sleeping, late because you are having this funny stomach butterflies, how do you deal with that? I mean,
I think just be prepared as possible and be flexible as possible.
Yeah. Be prepared and be flexible.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and of course we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
In this big event, and we hope to be there as well.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Cheers.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, and of course for being a part of the program. We'll still have more conversations just like this one right here, and we're hoping to be able to have you again on the program. My name as always is Eugene Adangwe. Goodbye for now.